Good evening, everyone. Time for episode 36 of the Drums of Doom, part 2 of the Duaredheim Staff Saga. It should be the finale, if I can last long enough. We're going to start off where we left off, the bottom of page 462. All right. 5th of November, 2020. Tarek fell and fell. His landing was violent, nothing pretty. More of his ribs were crushed, his right arm broken, but he hardly felt any of it. The water was cold, colder than the Arctic Sea, yet unfrozen and salty, like the ocean itself. He inhaled as much of it as he could. Better to hasten death, he thought. He drowned forever, and then everything went black. "Bring me War Master Bruin," Elric said to his goblin runner. "He is dead, master." "Then bring me War Master Zin." He was hurled into the river. "Dare I ask, little one," Elric said, somewhat amused, "do I have any War Masters left?" "War Master Urg is alive, but he cannot walk, and War Master Tang is gutted, but yet alive. The only War Master unhurt is Rend." "And where, pray tell, is he?" "Down by the docks." "Well?" "Yes, master." "Bring him to me at once." The little goblin was foolish and irritating, but swift once he was sufficiently motivated. "Ariana." "Yes, Elric." "Could you please tend to the wounded? My war masters are more useful to me alive." "Oh, but they have failed us so." "Ariana." "Oh, all right." Reluctantly, she tended to their wounds, and for a moment it almost seemed to him that she was a caring and able nursemaid. Her divine powers were undeniable, however, because in a short time Org could walk, Tang's bowels made whole, and 30 more of his soldiers saved. The ranger had cost them dearly, however. 63 of his orcs had been killed, and 12 more were missing, presumably in the river. "Surely some of them can be raised, Ariana." "I have power enough to bring 3 of them back from the dead," she said, "but I will have to rest for a long time after that." "Then save the 3 best," he said, "and they can carry you back to the pyramid." "Shall I save the elder who died first?" "No, not that one," Elric advised. "The ranger earned his revenge. If we camp here for a few days, I can raise a few more of them." "Very well," Elric said. "We shall encamp by the river and await further orders." 75 killed or missing, she reported. "Perhaps Tarek has the heart of the Dark Elfar." "I wonder," Elric said, "are our hearts any different at all?" "Oh, don't be silly," Ariana said laughingly. "If you had your way, why there wouldn't be any more war. And then what would we do?" "What would we do, indeed? The general will not be pleased." Andriel foresaw their escape. "Yes, but I did so much want to prove her wrong. If only we could pursue them downriver." "We have no boats," Ariana said, unless we contact the outpost at Greyware Ford. My mirror is programmed with that destination." She then produced her arcane device, and after clicking 2 forelegs and 1 hind leg 3 times rearward, she soon had the attention of the outpost commander. "Ah," he said, "Priestess Ariana and Captain Elric, congratulations on your promotion." "Thank you, and greetings to you, Captain Drake." "What can I do for you, Elric? It has been a long time." "I am in need of at least 5 longships. We are encamped at the ruins of Chaos Falls. Do you need any additional soldiers? I can spare a company if need be." "I could use a good squad of Marines to help navigate the river from here to the lost outpost near the Great Whirlpool." "Done," Captain Drake said. "I'll send 2 squads and 5 fully provisioned boats, enough for you and your battalion. They should reach you within 24 hours. We are in your debt, Captain." "Nonsense. Anything for a fellow brother of the Academy. I will inform you of their departure. Hunters lead the way, all the way." "Good night, Captain Drake. Good night." Later that night, Captain Drake informed them that everything had proceeded as planned. The longships were on the way. Pacing atop of the bridge, he found the ranger's knife leaning against the rampart, solitary, bloody, and somewhat ordinary. Bending down and picking it up, he wiped the gore from the blade. Finely made, large and well balanced, it said something about the man who wielded it. Peering over the side of the bridge and into the tumult, he spent time contemplating. Looking at the knife again, he changed his mind. This knife was special indeed. He considered throwing it into the maelstrom, but thought better of it. Tucking it beneath his belt, he resumed his duties. Hopefully the longships would arrive soon. When they arrived, Elric wasted no time in boarding his battalion of orcs and launching them off in pursuit of his quarry. He doubted their success. The Furmen had an enormous head start, but they were tired. They may even have taken the wrong passage and passed over the falls of the damned. Only time will tell. Efmiel. Elrond's spy had remained silent during most of the escape, helping when needed and yet mysteriously mute. Shortly after they had cast off, Efmiel approached Leander at the helm. 2 miles downriver the flow will divide, seemingly slower toward the left passage, but we must turn right. The left passage will lead us to our doom. How do you know this? Leander asked. Because Elrond told me. Who are you, really? Gripping the gunwale, she was torn between remaining Efmiel the slave turned spy and revealing the truth about her identity. I am Efmiel, sister of Tarik, and I may now be the last of the Wood Elven. Sister? I have been the Orc's prisoner since I was a child. Later, I was rescued by a young Dragonian soldier named Vlad Lucheron. Vlad, Keylor said. I pray that we never hear that name again. Oh, Carmen vowed, we will meet again. She may be his spy, Kerr said. No elf could have survived for so many years among the orcs. I survived as a slave. When I was a child, I served food to their chief. I was forced to clean their filth and sleep on the ground. When I came of age, they planned my rape and blood sacrifice to their demon lord. Their new master arrived that very night. Dressed in black mail, he walked into their midst without the slightest fear. When he witnessed their devilish ritual, he took pity on me. First, he offered the chief a king's ransom in gold and jewels, but the chief had little need for money. His deeper desire was to see me suffer and die at his own hands. That's terrible, Karina said. In defiance, the chief ordered the ceremony to begin, dismissing Vlad's offer. Vlad ran him through without hesitation and challenged the Orcan host to battle. Seeing how easily their chief had fallen, the entire tribe swore fealty to him. Vlad's brethren were my greatest enemies. They hated me in much darker, more sinister ways, always plotting to kill me the moment that Vlad's power faltered. He made me his personal slave, and by doing so, I gained a safety that I had never before known. Such horrors! It is a miracle that you survived. I overheard Vlad's fortune-teller, Efmiel said. She foretold that a party of Furmen would break out of the holding cell during the arena match between Colwyn and Uzul. 2 days ago, Vlad came to me and told me that the hour of my freedom was at hand. He instructed me to drug the prison guards' wine, steal their keys, and lead your family out of the fortress. I, Moldrin stated, and she did it well. And what of Elrond? Karina said. Don't you see, Leander said. There never was any Elrond. Clever, Kerr said, but why bother releasing us at all? Vlad is a man of honor, Efmiel testified. He is a man of purpose, but not a murderer. It will take more than this to earn our trust, Kerr said. How can we be sure that you are not his spy? I ask only for fairness, she replied, but heed my words. If you sail down the left branch, we will all be dashed to pieces over the falls of the damned. We have to trust her, Carmen said. More likely, she is leading us into another trap, Kerr warned. Vlad has used us from the start, Dartin said. And I think that it's time for a change, Carmen declared. Vlad spoke of a ship, Dow said. A star vessel. Do you know anything about it, Efmiel? Only his stories, she replied. He said that he and Derek found it near the heart of the world. Oh, Dow said, please do tell us. Farad Hoth. The mighty Colosseum was huge, towering, awe-inspiring, with 100 rows of benches seating 1,000 per row, and on this night every seat was filled, every aisle and hall overflowing. It was the night of the spring equinox, the same infamous night when the Queen of Dragonia had led her people out of darkness and back into the light. She had been old even then, a mother of 23 children, and her firstborn son was the general of her invincible army. Many of her daughters had also heard the sacred call of Lothtia and joined the coven. On that night, 500 years in the past, the goddess had urged them to live beneath the sun, challenging all who opposed them. The gods of light had been strangely quiet in those dawning days, and Lothtia's children grew bold. They gave no options save submit or die to the people that they conquered. Their victories were countless, and yet their greatest challenges lay yet ahead. 3 continents were yet out of their control, threatening their beliefs and challenging their superiority. They were infidels, non-believers, hardly people, actually. Arundel and Shamroon were both lands only recently discovered. Their peoples and customs were mysterious and often dangerous. Dragonia's dealings with them would take time to determine what foreign policy was best to follow, to conquer, or to ally. But Fermanagh had always resisted. Its people knew the history that had long ago divided them, and their alliances had proven resistant to their military might. They were non-believers, infidels, bold and daring to oppose them, but foolish, for such resistance was unavailing. Lothtia had guided them from one victory to another. Moreover, where were the gods of Fermanagh? Where was Corellius and the other gods of the Lyle Sulfar? Either he slept or he was dead, because the Dark Elfar had returned, and they were no longer the weaker race. Queen Afra sat in the high seat overlooking the grand Colosseum. Rising slowly to her feet, she straightened herself, and the crowd stilled. People of Dragonia, she said, our own past has been full of struggle, strife, and hardship. Our differences were settled on the field of battle, but now our alliances have come full circle. One man may be of Navarran blood, or Kirgil, but ask them what nations they hail from, and they will say Dragonia. Gone are the petty wars of our lands, for now we stand united. Our people do not starve. They walk their streets without fear. They say that the fairest maiden can walk from Hoth to Shamroon unattended, and yet travel safely without fear from harm. That is what we have come so far to achieve. That is what it means to be Dragonian, to follow the path laid out for us by the goddess. Ever we must remain watchful. We must always prepare for war to ensure our own peace. This truth has always been and forever shall be. Other nations threaten us. They jeopardize our beliefs and seek to ruin us from without and within. We must look to our own shores and the faraway shore. I speak to you now of Fermanagh, a land of infidels, barbarians, murderers, and thieves. It is they who seek to destroy us, filling our minds with lies of other gods. They are blind. Can they not see that Lothtia reigns supreme? We have come out of exile to walk again beneath the warmth of the sun. We have returned in the palm of Lothtia's hand. We have achieved victory after victory, and yet where are the gods of Fermanagh? Verily, the Firmin do oppose us, and with no so small skill. They are worthy foes. We have battled them for 500 years, but never before have we been so prosperous, so united. Our armies are the most powerful on Tempest. Our navy will crash through their ships like the head of a pike through mail. We will deliver our forces to their shores in numbers vast beyond their barbarous imaginings. Every city of Fermanagh will submit to our might or fall. We shall create a new world order, where heathens will learn the errors of their ways. Every man, woman, and child will know the divine grace and honor of Lothdea. They will learn what it means to be Dragonian. It is my honor on this, the anniversary of our escape from exile, to announce our new declaration of war. I do hereby renew our pledge to defeat the lands of Firminor. We shall begin a full-scale invasion of their shores by the month's end. The 1st and 2nd Royal Divisions of Marines will lead our attack against the kings of Eitzel. The ships of the First Fleet will deliver them. We will assail their lands from the north. We will crash into their west shores and shatter their east. We shall descend upon them from the sky, upon the backs of dragons, raining ruin upon them from the south, until they no longer have anywhere left to run. Within 10 years, the godless Firmin will submit or fall, by all the wisdom and grace of the goddess. Do not fear for them, good citizens, for we shall be merciful in our might. If the unbelievers choose surrender and swear fealty to Dragonia and the goddess, they will be spared. If they continue to oppose us, then they shall fall. Dragonia shall spread her greatness across the breadth of the world, and all of its people will benefit from it. When Tempest is one empire, one great nation, then there will be no more war, and peace will reign among us all. All hail the mighty! All hail Dragonia! The people's deafening roar filled the air, their right fists clenched and held high. The queen stood before them proudly, holding her fist aloft. Her aged body now held tall, bold, defiant, and powerful. All hail the mighty! For Dragonia and the queen! For Dragonia and the queen! She was their leader, the most awe-inspiring queen that any of them had ever known. The crowd was hers, and together their voices were so powerful that they were heard from one end of Farad Hoth to another. The spectacle in the arena that day rivaled any that had come before it. Those that witnessed it remembered it forever. It was a fitting tribute to the pride and honor that was Dragonia. The goddess and the queen. Kneeling before the altar, in the finest temple ever erected in Lothdea's name, the queen prayed. She was the most powerful priestess that the Dark Elfar had ever known, both in God-given power and station. She spoke frequently to the goddess, and at times Lothdea spoke to her, especially when her designs for her people were not proceeding in a manner that she found pleasing. The events of the past season had gone especially badly, and for that reason, Lothdea did not simply speak to Aphra, she appeared. The goddess answered her prayers from the second row of pews in the worship hall. "We have a problem," Lothdea said. Startled, Aphra turned, groveling at the feet of the most powerful deity in her pantheon. In form, the goddess could appear in any way that she pleased. In anger, she could become a demonic terror, surpassing any mortal's greatest fears. Within her church and before her chosen queen, she appeared as the Dark Elfar themselves, and yet her supernatural beauty could spell doom to any mortal bold enough to look upon her. She sat in a nonchalant fashion, relaxed, supremely confident, as if she was a simple patron watching a play in a concert hall. "My lady." "Rise and sit, Aphra," Lothdea said. "You need never kneel before me, child." Aphra rose to her knees and then stood. The goddess urged her to sit beside her. "Vlad has become too powerful to be left to his own designs any longer. He must be killed as soon as possible." "Ariana is no longer loyal to us," Aphra reported. "She has fallen in love with the man." "She too must be killed," Lothdea considered. "But we must use her first. We will use her to kill the son of Aklon." "It may take more to kill that one," Lothdea considered, "so I have brought you a new servant to send against him." "Servant, my lady?" "Arachnodon has created a new knight, soulless and devastating. In his former life, he was known as Ranvawan Jathroi. He was one of the traitors sacrificed in the arena." Yes, but the great spider saw a potential in him, a childhood hatred that he could fashion to our designs. After his soul was consumed, Only his hatred remained. Arachnidon cunningly used Ranvawan's malice, turning it against the son of Aklon. But will his power be enough? He is now a knight of shadow, with the power to walk between worlds as Vlad does. His sword is ensorcelled to destroy both the demon and the elf. He has all the powers of a fallen paladin. The only desires that he knows are revenge and the ultimate destruction of good. But Vlad will foresee his coming. I have stripped Andriul of her sight, Lothia said. Now she only sees what I want her to see. The traitor will finally pay the price that his father paid, and we will finally be rid of House Lu Sharon. Witness our Black Knight, Lothia said, and Ranvawan then appeared out of shadow, haunting, invulnerable. 6 feet tall, broad-shouldered, and wearing a full suit of spiked plate mail, his helm was round and flat-roofed, with thin perforations in the form of the great spider for his eyes and his breath. Sheathed at his left hip was a broad hand and a half sword. A short mace dangled by his right. His gauntlets were forged of the same adamant metal and spiked in the fashion of his armor. Remove your helm, Lothdir commanded. Kneel before your queen. He did so, and then rested his arms across his knee, bowing low. Raise your eyes, Epher said, so that I may look upon your face. Ranvawan may once have been beautiful, but many battles had scarred his face, the most prominent one crossing over his right eye and deforming his nose. His eyes were red like blood, his hair both silver and long in order to pad his helm. What is your greatest wish, Black Knight? To destroy House Lu Sharon. Excellent, Ranvawan, Epher said, but we must do it carefully. He must not know of your purpose until it is too late. I will send you to join him at the head of a battalion of Marines. In the heat of battle, you will betray him. Destroy him till there is no trace left of Lu Sharon but his memory. Then travel to his house and destroy his servants. You must ensure that no seed of his has been left to take his place. I will destroy him. You may leave us now, Ranvawan, Lothir replied dismissively. Prepare yourself. Your ship sails at dawn. Yes, my lady, he said, my queen. And then he was gone. The hour of our victory is at hand, After said, with hardly contained excitement. We must remain ever vigilant, Lothir warned. Prepare your spells. When Ariana next lies with him, she will put knives through his hearts or die. And what of the others? Leave them to me, Lothir said. I have already planned an ending for them. The lucky ones will be claimed by Arachnidon, but most of them will not be lucky at all. I will prepare myself, my lady, Epher promised. Sit with me a while, my child. I still have much to discuss. And so she did. Pomp and circumstance. Assemble the legions, Vlad commanded. I wish to inspect the full muster of our garrison. Yes, Commander, Elric said. I shall disperse the order. Shall we form up on the plains of Orxius? That should prove fitting, Vlad replied. Let the orcs assemble before the monument to their god, and there we shall announce the plans for war. Shall I send for Uzul as well, Commander? Uzul still rests with the healers, Vlad said. His mind is not ready to resume command. He has suffered his first defeat, and at the hands of his arch-enemy. It will be a miracle if he recovers enough to assume his former rank and title. The tribes are fat and spoiling for a fight, Monica Elfar, who was often called the Silk-Haired, said. Their population has grown remarkably during the last few years of peace. Except for the army of Lycurgus, there have been few casualties and no deaths from disease. How many warriors will they commit? Each tribe has offered 2,000 veteran fighters, and 3 remote tribes to the west have pledged 3,000 more. They don't want to miss out on the spoils of this war. More than 3 regiments, Vlad said, dropping his right fist into his left palm. It just may be enough to shift the odds in our favor. There are rumors, Olak reported, pausing, his face both determined and grim, that Vremic has assembled an army in order to rekindle the old war. He seeks the sword of his father, Draco said. We nearly killed him with the son of Dagall. It seems unavoidable, Vlad considered. We will bring war to one front, and it shall strike us on more than two. I will not sacrifice the honor of the Dugal clan by ordering the surrender of the sword. Nor would any of us, Draco said. We are fighters, and we will fight. And we will finally deal with this sentient once and for all, Olak vowed. His mad quest for revenge has always been a threat. It is still likely, Vlad said, that we do not yet have the necessary strength to subdue the armies of Safe Haven. Lord Sherrick has a mighty garrison at Khan, and his barons can assemble thousands of knights in a matter of days. The Queen seeks to rid herself of us. The time of our confrontation is fast approaching, Vlad agreed, but we have a few surprises for her all our own. When do we move for the last peace? We must attempt to gain the circlet before we march on Safe Haven. Endriel has foreseen a terrible defeat if we should fail to unite the staff before the war begins. How soon? After the ceremony, Vlad replied. We shall inform the army of the campaign, place our field commanders in charge, and prepare ourselves. By the week's end, we must be aboard Imperium. And what of Carmen's Rangers? Olak asked. Are they not part of the prophecy? My spy shall see to it that they know of our plan and the location of the ship. It will be up to them to stop us. What if your spy betrays us? Her betrayal is the plan, Vlad explained. I fully expect her to tell them everything. Besides, Ariana and Elric will be close behind them to help guide them in the right direction, if need be. Destiny has become uncertain, Andriel said. The yarn of fate is frayed, and my power diminished. Everything seems to hang in the balance of our success. So your future sight, Draco surmised, will no longer lead us to victory. It seems, Kristoff said, that you are now free to make your own destiny, maybe for the first time in your history. This is our time, Vlad resolved, when the strength in our hearts and in our minds will be sorely tested. The day is coming when the strength of our character must outweigh the power of the gods themselves. Then it is the time that you have all been waiting for, and forever feared, Draco said. As always, Olak concluded, the likelihood of our survival is slim. Only if our faith in ourselves should falter. We will not fail, Commander. Enough of this gloom and doom, Vlad said. Assemble the legions. I have a speech to give and orders to disseminate. When we return from the Ice Moon, we will lead our armies to victory at the head of the most powerful weapon ever created. 4 divisions assembled on the plain of Orxius. 24,000 orcs, giants, goblins, and Dragonian regulars, soldiers all, stood disciplined and organized as their commander told them of the coming campaign. The spring thaw has come, Vlad began, with our victory on its heels. Many times have the orcs marched on Safe Haven, only to meet impregnable castle walls and the swords of Lord Cherick's knights. These are all outdated blunders, unavoidable in the absence of proper planning. Now the orc is stronger and more numerous than ever, allied with giants and goblins, dark elfar and men, Dragonians all. Together we will sweep through the lands of Safe Haven like a wildfire. We will shatter the gates of Khan Keep and pave the way for 1,000 dragon ships to land. With courage we shall reap the whirlwind. Long live the mighty, long live the brave. His army roared. Most of them knew little of Dragonia and its people, but all of them knew him, and they would follow to the death. Prepare yourselves in the coming weeks, he said firmly. Test your blades and sharpen your weapons and yourselves. When the blood moon rises, we march. One-Eyed Jacks. Leander piloted the longboat well, Kerr said, and led us down the right branch in the river. Our light was like a beacon in the dark, and the shadows chased us from behind as heartily as they fled before us. We had no idea what lay ahead of us, Gaylor continued, but for the first time we knew the face of our enemy, and we were more determined than ever to stop him. Carmen must have been devastated, Polly said. How could she go on? She was our leader, and she wouldn't let us down. Some part of her must have held on to hope. We never saw Tarek die, but the odds were beyond any man. How could you possibly beat someone so powerful, Eric asked. He had everything perfectly planned, down to the smallest detail. And he had everything that he needed to complete the staff, Garrett said. Oh, Kerr replied. He had all the cards all right, but we had Efmiel. And that is a story best told another night, Kalor concluded, with fresh hearts and minds, because much of the tale is beyond belief. The truth, Kerr said, usually is. End of Book 2. Okay, Book 3 is The Last Admiral. It tells the tale of Vlad's father's betrayal at the hands of the Queen. It's a very long naval adventure, very exciting. Anyway, that's Part 3, which is actually a prequel to Kerr's Rage. Part 4, The Ice Moon, continues the story from this point forward. Okay, the third part, when I originally designed this, Part 3 was going to be The Ice Moon. But I realized that The Ice Moon was 2 stories in one, so I divided it into The Last Admiral Part 3 and The Ice Moon Part 4. The Ice Moon tells of how the party escapes from under Earth and races against time to reach the star vessel Imperium. Battling on the frozen wastes of the Ice Moon, they struggle to stop their nemesis as the war to end all wars begins beneath them. This is an original sketch that I drew for a cover concept. Hard to see, but that's the cave where Modrul the dragon slept, and they found all the treasure. And they went down the secret way, through passages. They met the Lich King. They had the encounter with the monster in the cave, the Darg, the evil dwarves, and then the Trolls Bridge, the River Chaos, all things, and I drew it in the fashion of a illuminated manuscript to an extent. But anyway, it's a collage and a sketch of a sort, and that is what allowed the Stratton Press artist to come up with this cover design. Anyway. The end of the Drums of Doom, you have an expanded character index. All the main characters are there from Part 1 and Part 2 in alphabetical order. And there's an extensive bibliography. All the books that inspired me, from Gygax's Fiend Folio, all the Dungeons and Dragons first edition books, the dictionaries I used, everything I used, the Bible, all footnoted. So you can see where I got some of my inspiration from. Okay. And at the end of the book I have my own family tree. That was sort of a personal edition. It has all the ancestors and my siblings and their children as far back as I could find. And beyond that, I have a tribute to my Uncle John Anderson, who was a World War II Ranger. He used to live in Munson, Mass. And that's a picture of his old house. And we're sitting actually next to what was once a great goldfish pond, wonderfully landscaped yard he lived. I have newspaper clippings of where he was injured in Sicily during the invasion of northern Sicily and rescued by Jehovah's Witness off the battlefield. The Jehovah's Witness would wear red robes in Sicily, and they were so courageous that they went on the battlefield with no protection or arms of any kind, rescuing and carrying the dead and wounded off the battlefield. So my uncle had great respect for them. That's one picture of my Uncle John Anderson. Okay. And then I have a tribute to him. It there's no way I can read it. I won't be able to keep my composure. Okay. But you can read it. All you got to do is buy the book. And there he is, in his youth and splendor. John Anderson. In the back of the book, normal fare. That's me. All right. If anybody wants me to narrate The Last Admiral, if one person requests that I narrate The Last Admiral, I will do so. If nobody does, I'm not going to waste my time doing it because very few people have listened to any of these episodes. But if one person would like me to do it, I will narrate Part 3, the prequel to Kerr's Rage. The Last Admiral is, in my opinion, the culmination of it's my life's work. It's some of the greatest writing I've ever done. Ice Moon is great too, but I can't claim the sole ownership of the Ice Moon, although I wrote the majority. But The Last Admiral is... It just all comes together. Everything that I allude to at the beginning is resolved by the end. And there's just so much exciting stuff in this book. Okay. The Ice Moon was a combination of my friend Tom Reed, Matt Whitaker, and my work. Tom unfortunately died before the book was finished. The book's dedicated to Tom Reed. Matt Whitaker did some phenomenal work in his knowledge of Roman history, and just military tactics, and everything that he added to it really, it just really added a whole nother, what am I trying to think of? A whole nother focus, a whole nother point of view to the book. He came up with some dialogue that I would never have thought of, and we did it all seamlessly, so that very difficult, if not impossible, to tell who wrote what. So I think it was a great success, The Ice Moon, and it really wraps everything up in the story. So anyway, if you want me to narrate Part 3, let me know, and I'll do so. Thank you, and have a great night.